If you want to learn a difficult language, the challenges that you have, the problems you have to solve are basically the same. You need to learn enough words. You need to learn the meaning of those words. You need to learn what those words sound like so you can identify them when you hear them and you understand the language. And then you should be able to also reproduce those words and use them in the right context, sounding close enough to a native speaker so that they understand you when you speak. Yeah, basically, learn vocabulary, learn pronunciation, work on your listening comprehension, and then your speaking. The way you solve these three problems is the same for easy and for difficult languages. In some very difficult languages, like Korean here, you've got the extra problem of a writing system that's completely different, which we're going to ignore completely for now. It's pretty useless to learn to read and write words that you don't know what they mean. Yeah. So until you can understand spoken Korean or Japanese or Arabic or whatever it is, well, yeah, your listening comprehension is good and you can have a conversation in the language. Until then, there's no reason to learn to read and write in those languages, in difficult languages, languages with a different writing system. So what we'll do is learn words, learn the right pronunciation, learn to identify the words, and then to uh, reproduce that language to yeah, basically speak in the language. And the best way to do this is in three steps. I'm going to show you three basic steps you can follow to learn difficult languages that you can't really read all that well. So we're going to do it phonetically. We're going to listen a lot, and we're going to do three different exercises. The first exercise is going to be memorization of vocabulary. Yeah, we'll use associations and we'll memorize a vocab so that then you know the words. So, and maybe I should have switched this to English because some of you probably don't speak French. But anyway, so this means open your eyes. So this is probably open. This is probably eyes, I guess. Let's see what it sounds like.
눈에 떠요.
눈에 떠요. So you should do this phonetically. Yeah, repeat as much as you can so that you learn to reproduce the sounds.
눈에 떠요.
눈에 떠요. Or we can even check the meaning. Eyes floating. The eyes are floating. That's weird. Okay, but yeah, eyes open, more or less. Apparently, open and floating are the same thing. Um, but 눈에 떠요 is open your eyes. So what you can do here is find a word that sounds like nune, and then another one that sounds like toyo. And I know I'm butchering the pronunciation. My Korean is very basic. But if you do this exercise a lot, your pronunciation will get better.
눈에 떠요.
Nune toyo. So I can think of someone or something that sounds like nune.
눈에 떠요.
I can think of a nune. Nune is a nune or nune? It's a woman's name, and it's an Armenian name. I used to know one. And Toyo,
눈에 떠요.
uh, Toyo, Toyota, maybe. Yeah. What do you think of when you hear "open your eyes"? To me, first thing that comes to mind is one of those meditation sessions that they always end up with. Now, open your eyes. Uh, so I've got a couple of them that I do all the time. One of them is Andrew Huberman's NSDO one. So I've got his voice already uh, in my mind. So I visualized Nuna in a Toyota doing the exercise and listening to Huberman and opening her eyes. And that's it. And that was very slow because I was explaining a bunch of stuff. But you can do this quite quickly with lots of them. And then the next day you come back and you don't look at this. You listen to it,
눈에 떠요.
and you try to guess what it meant, and then you look at it afterwards. That's retrieval practice. Yeah, active recall. So you try to retrieve the information that's been stored in your brain. That's much more effective than being fed the info. And that's what you do on day two. Day three, you come back. You also do retrieval practice, so you listen to it again.
눈에 떠요.
And this time you repeat it aloud. Maybe you can repeat it aloud the first. I mean, the first and second days as well. You should probably repeat it aloud. The more you do it, the better. But of course, if you're doing it with 50 or 100 sentences a day, that's more time consuming, right? Um, Ideally,
걸을래요.
Corolla.
걸을래요.
This is I'm leaving. I'm going. So Korolev. It reminds me of Korolev. Was it Andrei Korolev or Sergei Korolev? He was the guy who was the leader of the Soviet space program. He was this engineer, rocket scientist, really smart. Russians were beating the Americans, but then he died because he had really bad health because Stalin had sent him to a gulag for whatever reason for a long time. So they brought him back eventually to run the rocket science program, but the space program. But yeah, he had really bad health by then. So they lost the space race probably because of Stalin sending this guy to the gulag for possibly made up reasons. So yeah, I immediately the name was Korolev.
걸을래요.
So that was the first thing that came to mind. That was a long story, right? But if I'm not explaining it, the name already is like all of that stuff. I can visualize it already, and then he's like in the office. I'm done with this. I'm leaving. I'm going. This means I'm going. I'm leaving. Um, that's it. Korolev. Korolev is leaving. It's as simple as that. You have to find things that you probably maybe you know who he was. Some of you won't. Some of you will know a bunch of pop stars and stuff that I don't know because I don't give a fuck about that stuff. But yeah, each one should use the uh, the whatever you've got an emotional connection with or whatever comes to mind, and you've got it's easy, whatever's easy to visualize, you use that. Yeah, and then the next day you listen to it.
걸을래요.
Corolla was, I'm leaving. Je vais marcher. And
걸을래요.
Corolla,
걸을래요.
Corolla. And you do it a few times. This is also spaced repetition. If you do it this way, okay? One day you do 150 or 100 sentences like that. You would associate them. The next day you associate more of them, and you listen only and try to remember the meaning of the ones from the previous day. And the third day you do it again. So like you review them twice in a 2 days in a row. Uh, Listen and repeat without looking at the meaning, uh, unless you really can't remember. And then in a week or two you try again, just in case, so that you retain the information. But if you associate it properly, you will. So, conclusion: associate the words first phonetically, not by the way they look, yeah, by the way they're written here, because it looks weird. The way whatever they sound like, listen to it and associate by sound. Then create association, and then do space repetition with some listening and repeating without looking, because that way you'll remember much better. And this is how you learn difficult languages. I've been using this with a bunch of them, and now it's going to be Korean for a while. I find this kind of exercise much more efficient than just doing input, because input to be comprehensible, you need to know a lot of vocab first, and I don't yet.